Welcome back, everyone, to Rise and Shine, where the future of real estate shines bright and every day brings a new opportunity to grow. I'm Jim Lawrence, and we are here to navigate the vast and vibrant world of property investment alongside the insightful Irismar.
And we're here to empower you with knowledge, strategies, and stories from the heart and the real estate investing community. Today's episode is especially exciting because we introduce a guest renowned for his experience and innovative approaches in the field.
That's right. Joining us today is Darren Voros, a name that is synonymous with success in the real estate investing world, with a wealth of experience and a key eye for opportunity. Darren has carved a path for many that they aspire to follow.
Yes, not only has Darren demonstrated exceptional skills in flipping and developing properties, but his commitment to sharing knowledge through coaching and mentoring speaks volumes about his passion in real estate investing.
And from giving practical advice on property investment and to insights into the latest market trends, Darren's contributions have helped countless individuals and investors achieve their real estate goals.
Yes, so whether you are looking to dive into the first investment, scale your portfolio, or simply gain inspirations from one of the best in the business, today's conversations with Darren Voros is exactly what you need.
All right, so grab your notebook, let's settle in, and let's welcome Darren Voros to Rise and Shine. He's back again, and we're very thrilled to have him back. And this time he's in Toronto. Welcome, Darren. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me back, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, buenos dias, should we say?
Buenos dias.
Yes. Now
that's about the extent of my Spanish, so no more after
that. Well, and we're surprised. I recognize the familiar background. You're in Toronto. You're back home. What brings you back into the 416?
Well, life of a developer, life of a real estate investor, things are constantly evolving and changing. And I was expecting to be in Costa Rica, as I often am, for the entire winter from January through until April. And, I was there for a part of January and in Arizona and in Dominican Republic with my mastermind. But ultimately, we are still waiting on permits down there. And there was just a lot of stuff going on back home with our projects here. We've got one project that's wrapping up, another project that's going into the ground in the next couple of weeks, two other projects that are starting in early April. And so, just looking at all that, I was like, I don't think as much as I'd love to be there and my business can operate remotely for sure, like that's the way I've set it up. But it is just a little bit easier if I'm here and I can manage things on the ground. And so, I decided to come back and honestly, like I feel really good about that decision. It was, not to get too much into it, but I was kind of feeling a little lonely and isolated in Costa Rica this year. It was a bit different. And so it was nice to come home to the comforts of home and my routines and the things that I really like to do and be around my friends. And so, yeah, that's the long answer, Jim. That's why I'm back in Toronto.
And if you don't mind, because that's sort of the beauty and from my wellness side.
Yeah.
What made you feel a little bit more lonely this year? Because everyone would say you are in Costa Rica, the beautiful weather, the beautiful environment.
FOMO.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think that's a typical thing, right? I think like when people see the pictures on social media, they automatically think like, oh, you must be like in the most blissful place. And I was, and I am. Like every time I'm down there, I'm like, this place is magical. It's beautiful. But ultimately, I think the thing that I'm realizing this year is everything we do as real estate investors, whether, no matter how hard we work and all the things we strive for, if there's not somebody there you can share it with, it lessens it a little bit. And so, I think that was a bit of a realization when I was there this year. It's like I was there kind of by myself and, it just, like I say, it's just a little bit isolating, a little bit lonely. And so you kind of think, well, am I here just for the social media posts or am I here because it's actually making me happy? And, when I really truly dug in and looked at the answer to that question, I was like, I'm just here right now because I say that I spend winters away, but what's going to make me happy is actually going home and being, in my space with my sort of things that I really enjoy doing on a regular basis and around my friends and family and everything like that. So it was a tough decision, I think, but ultimately, like I say, I feel like I made the right one.
No, and thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, because that to me is key. Not only you are in tune with who you are in self-awareness, but even sharing that, right? Because we all get caught up in that spotlight of what's happening. And this is the life of an entrepreneur. Sometimes it can be lonely. You just need to reevaluate and check where you are and take those steps that are best for you. So
Yeah,
enjoy.
for sure.
You're now in your happy place.
Yeah, my better place for
Your
sure.
better place, yes.
I think I saw it about a month ago or so. You were spending some time with family, I think in Arizona, was it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom's 80th was in December 29th, so the whole family went down, which was really nice. That we don't spend a lot of time at Christmas or around the holidays together. My sister's in Edmonton. Well, my nephews are in Edmonton. My sister's in Camrose. You know, my parents are in Red Deer. They're in Arizona for the winter. I'm in Toronto. So it was nice to be able to come together, and that was definitely a really nice time to spend. I think we spent 10 days together as a family, which was a lot of fun. And then from there, I had a quick trip back here, and then went to Costa Rica. So, and then after that, I went to the Dominican for a week with my mastermind, and then settled back in Toronto around the end of January, early February. So
Yeah, we're speaking to one of your partners there, Steve Arneson, and they said Dominican was quite the trip.
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a great time.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that. And I think I learn something new about you every time we talk. Are you in Alberta? Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
well, you have to say you can take the boy out of Alberta, but you can't take the Alberta out of the boy. It's,
The country,
yeah.
yeah, as they said.
I'm yeah, born and raised in Red Deer, Alberta. That's where I yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains a lot. I'm just joking.
So that means you are very attuned with those market changes out there.
It means
Fantastic.
something, that's for sure. Yeah, it means something.
No, I don't believe you have any properties in Alberta. Am I wrong there?
I just sold my entire portfolio out there. I had 5 properties, and I started selling them. I think it was at the end of the summer, and we sold them one at a time. I tried to sell them to investors, and investors were just too picky, and you know, I ended up selling them one at a time to a bunch of investors, but they just bought one property at a time, and it was 5 different groups, and some were end users. Some people bought them to live in. I mean, they were legal duplexes, so they're kind of perfect, right? So especially in today's market with the high interest rates, you know, a lot of people needed that mortgage booster, right, to qualify. And so having that additional unit that they could live in one unit and rent out the other one, they all sold very quickly, above what I was expecting to get for them. And you know, and they had quick closings, and my agent did a great job. And so yeah, I sold the entire portfolio out there, and moved all that capital to here in Ontario.
Wow. Okay. So, because there's a lot of Ontario money going to Alberta. What are you still keeping an eye on Alberta, or what's the goal here?
Yeah, I'm looking at property in Edmonton. My nephews, like I said, are there. They're in their early 20s, and you know, I kind of want to get them into the real estate game. And you know, part of what's happening in Edmonton and even Calgary is, you know, I think what's really interesting for people. And I just actually had I did a short on this a couple days ago and released it. But you know, Edmonton just changed their zoning bylaws, allowing basically anything up to, I think it's 8 units on a single family lot. And you know, that's changing the game. And I think, you know, when you look at purchase price out there, let's call it $500,000, and you can build for probably, you know, under $200 a square foot, which you can't do here. You know, then you're looking at sort of an asset that with CMHC's new MLI Select financing, which is a commercial product, right? Because anything over 5 units, you get this commercial financing, and you get amortizing over 50 years, and you
Okay.
can get your loan value up to 95% loan to cost. You know, you could be leaving $100,000 in a $2 million asset and have 8 rental units, and you know, kind of ride off into the sunset. Or you could scale that model. So it's not surprising that people are looking at Alberta, and I am too, for sure. But I'm still bullish on Ontario, and I'm really bullish still on Toronto. I just think like it's hard to beat appreciation that happens here in Toronto just because of sheer supply and demand, right? And I think that although it's happening across the country, we're in a housing crisis for sure. So there's no doubt about that. There's the demand for housing everywhere, But I think when you look at Edmonton and Calgary, they are more cash flow markets and the appreciation is a little bit slower. Whereas if you look at Toronto, the majority of my wealth that I've made in real estate is because of the appreciation in the Toronto market.
Okay, because a lot of people are saying they can't make numbers work in Toronto.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Please do.
They're not looking at enough units.
Right.
Everyone's trying to do a duplex or a triplex in Toronto. It doesn't work. The numbers do not work, right? So yes, everyone says, oh, you can't find cash flow in Toronto. Well, of course not. You're not going to buy a duplex for $1 million and collect maybe $6,000 of rent on it, and it's going to cash flow. There's no way. You have to get into that 6, 8, or 10 units in order to make it work. And when you get to that point, it works all day, every day, depending on your construction costs, right? And depending on how much you're acquiring the land for. So I get, you can tell I'm a little passionate about this right now. I'm like, to say that Toronto doesn't work is like such a blanket statement. It doesn't work if you don't know what you're doing. I think the other one that is actually really working quite well is the fourplex. And the reason I say the fourplex is because there's different rules for 4 than there are for like 6 and 8 and 10. The fourplex in Toronto is now exempt from development charges. It's exempt from gross floor area. So you don't really have to worry about going to committee of adjustments for a larger building. And so those two things, no parking restrictions for 4 units and under. So there's a bunch of stuff that the municipality and the province and the federal government have introduced. And so that 4-unit model, if you can buy it right, it actually works. The only problem with the 4-unit model that I don't like is it's still residential financing. And
Yeah.
so that's what I think when you're looking at that, it's not scalable unless you have a significant net worth or you've got partners that you want to bring in on every deal. You'll get to 2 or 3 and the bank will be like, cool, we can't do any more because you got 3, 4 plexes and you can't cover the debt, the debt ratio.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to the 5+, right, you're now into commercial financing, and that's a scalable model that you can do all day, every day. So, Toronto definitely works. You just have to find it and you got to build it and you got to do it right. But, there's lots of opportunity here.
So I think that was the key word you say, build it. So we're looking at opportunities where we can find acquiring on a vacant lot that we can build it from the ground up, or perhaps maybe an infill that we can actually change it and modify it to ensure that we remain within that threshold of under 8 units in Toronto.
We're looking at anything under 10 because with Bill 23 that was introduced, you can do anything under 10 units is void from site plan approval. Site plan approval, if you've never been through that process, is a pain in the butt, and it takes a long time and costs a lot of money. So if you do 10 units and under, then you don't have to do that. So yeah, we look at most of our buildings are 8 and 10 unit buildings. We do mostly infill. So we just buy an existing property, we tear it down and we rebuild it as a purpose-built 8 or 10 unit building. And it's you get a brand new piece of real estate that's going to be maintenance free for a long time and has great financing on it and a high quality tenant.
And if for those of you watching, if you're curious to know how site planning in Toronto can be frustrating, watch our last episode of Rise and Shine where we had Darren on and sharing his experiences with that. So yeah, no, that was a fun one as well. And so I heard you say Ontario. I hear you specifying Toronto. Are you looking anywhere outside of the 416?
We've got a project in Kitchener, which I think there's lots of strong markets in Ontario. I mean, if you look at anything on the 401 and anything on the QEW, Hamilton, I've got a project, we're doing another 8-unit build there. But I think my concern with that is that people spread themselves a little bit too thin. Right. And this is why I kind of liquidated the Alberta portfolio. I sold off a lot of stuff actually over the last year. And I'm just kind of trying to concentrate on 1 or 2 markets because you become an expert in those markets. So you can't do a project in Kitchener and in Hamilton and Peterborough and Toronto, in Costa Rica and Alberta and be an expert at any one of those markets. It's just impossible. Right. So I think that's where I looked at liquidating pretty much all that peripheral stuff and just really focusing in the core. So the problem is I already have these projects underway. And so you got to finish them. Right. And then you can decide what you want to do after that. But I've got 1 in Kitchener, 1 in Hamilton, 1 just outside of Peterborough, a project in Costa Rica. And then we've got our 4 or 5 in Toronto as well.
Well, I love that because how long have you been in real estate investing now?
You're gonna age me, Jim. I've been an investor for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
started when I was 2. Yeah, it was good.
Uh, now what was the first one then, 20 some odd years ago?
I bought a house in Alberta in my hometown in Red Deer. It was a brand new house. I bought it from a builder, and the plan was to flip it. I was going to buy it from the builder, finish the basement, add some value, and sell it, and take my money and do this over and over again. And then I couldn't sell it, and I held it for 4 years and rented it out. And I was like, hey, this rental game is pretty cool too, because the property almost doubled in value in those 4 years. And I sold it 4 years later and took the money and bought 3 properties out here in Ontario. And that's where I saw exponential growth. And I was like, oh, I like this real estate thing. That's kind of what got me hooked. But yeah, it was a slow growth for me for the first decade, right? I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I was just trial and error. And when I had money, I would try to look and go and buy real estate, but I didn't really know how to build a real estate portfolio. It was just like, I was just, like I say, I was just trying to do what I thought was best, but I didn't really have a plan.
Well, and that's what we were talking about last night on our program with mindset and wellness through our program Infinite Mindset Journey, is we're talking about the importance of coaching and having that guidance and that mentorship to really propel you and move you faster through and guide you through all the intricacies that, like you've gone through site planning issues with Toronto. Now you can speak highly about that and guide people to avoid some of the obstacles that you faced.
Well, with coaching and with mentorship and with anything, we pay for 2 things. We pay for speed and we pay to reduce our errors, right? And that's all it is, right? And so yeah, there's coaching. I have a course. It's eight, whatever. It's $5 grand, $8 grand. There's courses out there that are 10 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand. And what you have to decide is, can it expedite your journey? And are you going to be able to save that money by avoiding a mistake? Right. And I can tell you in development, the mistakes are so costly. Like I've made mistakes totaling probably $500,000. So when I'm teaching my students, I'm like, and I'm charging them what I'm charging them, I'm like, I never feel like, I'm bad, because I know that I'm gonna save them at least double, triple that with them going through that program, because I've already been there, and that's essentially what you're paying for, right? You're paying to expedite things, and you're paying to avoid mistakes, because I've already made them for you.
Yeah.
I've already paid for them. Yeah.
And you also probably pay to invest in yourself, because you probably have had your own mentors and your own coach along the way. Like, yes, you're making your mistakes and you're sharing that knowledge now, but I bet you throughout your journey, you sought that expertise from someone else.
Absolutely. I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for coaches and mentorship programs, and those were the ones that expedited my journey, right? And I think like that's where I say the first 10 years I was just kind of like trying to piece it together, and then I found real estate education. I was like, oh wait, there's actually people that know what they're talking about, and if I follow them, that's when things started to change for me. And so I think that it's a good thing to realize is, yes, you can do all these things on your own. You can read books, you can watch YouTube videos, and you can do all that kind of stuff, but it's going to start like, there's no faster way than to have somebody who's been there and done that, and that can guide you through it.
And the other thing is too, is the community that's built around learning together with a group and growing together. Sometimes some person hears one thing that another person missed, so that's the benefits of the community. You get to share and grow together as well. So it's
Absolutely.
Now, how did Costa Rica come into play here? Why did you choose there, and what's going on? What do you have going on there?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been vacationing there for the last like decade or so, and I think it was 2 years ago I was down in Costa Rica. It was hard to find a place to stay, and it was expensive. And those are 2 really good things as an investor. You're like, hey, if the vacancy is low and the price is high, like maybe I should be looking at this market. And so I did. I started looking at land there, and having developing properties here at home, I was like, well, I can transfer that knowledge down to Costa Rica. I didn't really look at buying an existing asset because it wasn't really what I wanted to do. Development is the probably the most profitable real estate investing strategy out there, because you're buying land essentially at a fraction of the price of what the value of that property can be when you have something on it. And so I started looking at land there, and basically, yeah, acquired a piece of land just over a year ago in September of 2022. And we bought two pieces of land together. We've merged them to one, and then we're building 6 luxury homes
Oh,
on
wow.
those on that lot. And so they're big. They're like, excuse me, they're 24, I think 2,400 square feet is our smallest one, 3-bedroom, 3-bath. And then they step up from there. We have a 4-bed, 4-bath, which is like 2,800 square feet. And yeah, we're gonna basically build them and rent them out with short-term rentals, and they'll generate, the smaller ones will generate somewhere between 150 and $200,000 a year, and the big ones will probably generate 300 to 350, per year. So the numbers work, the model works, right? And so when I started looking at all that stuff, I was like, it makes sense to buy here and build here.
Love it.
Now, have you encountered any challenges? I mean, I know Costa Rica is a bilingual country, but any challenges in infrastructure and having to know Spanish or having to get some locals?
No, it's been perfect. Everything has been seamless. I'm not
That's
joking. Of course, there's been challenges. Every development project has like multiple.
I love it how you said with the straight face.
No,
And
it's
smile.
good. Yeah, no, perfect. Everything's been smooth sailing. No, the big challenge in Costa Rica is water. And so, I knew that. I had been given that information from a couple of other people there. And so but the difference, I think the way that I approached it was, a lot of developers in Costa Rica will go and they'll design something, and then they'll say like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then they'll go to the water authority and they'll say, we've got this amazing design and we're going to do this much density on the land. And then the water authority's like, we can't approve that because there's no way that the water infrastructure can support your development. We did it the other way around. So I went to the water authority first and I said, what would you guys approve on this piece of land? What would you like to see? And that was a bit of a game changer, because they came back with very specific numbers, right? We want to see no more than 20 bedrooms, and basically as little density to the land as you can possibly get. So we designed around that. We designed 20 bedrooms total, and we still had to go through the process of hiring a water consultant and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, we were kind of like fast-tracked through that water approval process. I know projects in Costa Rica that wait 3-4 years to get an approval. And so that was the first big challenge. The next one is just getting the project off the ground, or out of the ground. So we're in the permit process right now. That can sometimes take weeks. It can be months. That's the difference, I think, is that we just don't know, like, I don't know enough about the system there to know like where to push, where to pull. And I have experts on the ground there that are helping me. But yeah, we're just essentially now waiting for our permits, and then we'll break ground. And then, the other challenge is financing. They don't really finance anything there. So you have to kind of have cash for everything, right? Cash for the land, cash for all the legals and the closing costs, and cash to build. And so that, there is some financing options in Costa Rica, but they're fewer and further between for sure.
Were there any grants or anything like that you were able to get?
No, I didn't really look into any of that. I think it's like here in Canada, anytime a sort of governing body sees that somebody's building something to profit, they're probably not that interested in helping you out, right? So this is like pretty much straight up, yeah, build it to make a bunch of money on Airbnb and have these properties for personal use for my investors and myself.
Awesome. And what after going through this with Costa Rica, would you do this again?
That's a great question. And I think that's one question that sometimes we forget to ask ourselves, right? Is like, did this go well, and do you want to do this again? I think a lot of people, they'll do one project and they'll get halfway through it and they'll be like, this is easy, this is good, this is gonna end up well. And so they'll start a second one without actually having completed the first one. With Costa Rica, for me, I was like, let's get this thing done. Let's see actually how it shakes out. And then we'll decide whether we want to do another one. But if things hold the way that I believe that they will, then this is a great model, right? I think like you look at, like I say, the numbers, I mean, the revenue targets, and what we're paying for the land and for construction. Yeah, if this holds and it does what I think it'll do, I'd love to scale this model out in Costa Rica and perhaps in other international destinations as well.
Well,
Thank you. That was a good golden nugget in there. Meaning you reevaluate, you wait, don't push to the next project yet, making sure you have everything that is proven, and then go and replicate it.
I think she's saying that slyly to me.
I mean, hey, there's a lot of people in a lot of trouble right now because they haven't done that, right? And I think like that's, and I'm not pointing fingers or anything like that. I mean, I've had my struggles too over the last 12, 18 months with just everything that's going on in the real estate market. But I think in especially in today's market, like get a project, get it done, get it completed, really analyze it, what went well, what didn't go well, and then decide if you want to do another one. But yeah.
In terms of what we're experiencing here, a lot of investors are experiencing here in the Ontario, Canada market. Is it in the past 12 months? Are you experiencing the same in Costa Rica, or are things going a little bit?
Well, I mean, there's been a recession essentially in Canada and the US. And so what are those, the markets that get hit the hardest in a recession are those luxury markets, right? Some people would say, well, the people that have multi-millions of dollars, they still have multi-millions of dollars in a recession too. So it doesn't really matter. But it's those luxury purchases that kind of like suffer a little bit right away. Everyone still needs a place to live. And so the starter homes kind of keep trading, right? Even in a recessionary market. And so you do see a little bit of a slowdown. We saw that in Costa Rica over the last 12 months. It's definitely like slowed down in terms of numbers of transactions and more things are on the market and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's been because a lot of the buyers there are foreign, yeah, no disrespect to the Costa Rican people, but not too many of them are buying $1 million asset, to rent it out. They just don't have that kind of capital generally. And so it's a lot of foreign buyers, right? Almost all exclusively Europeans, Americans, and Canadians. And so when the markets are tough there, then they're not going to be buying international real estate.
Oh, very cool. Now, there's so many of our investor friends that are in Costa Rica. They're either often vacationing there or they're investing there as well.
Yeah.
Are you guys bumping into each other on the beach?
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid them all the time, but they keep finding me. And no, I had, I was there, I was only there for 2 weeks, and I think there was like 5 or 6 people that I saw when I was there. Just traveling through and visiting, or I had an investor and his wife come down to check out, the project, and a friend of mine who's in my mastermind. And yeah, so it's just kind of like this, yeah, there's this little community of people down in Costa Rica. And I wasn't even there that long this year. I've got a couple friends, probably, Paul Hecht. I mean, Paul's in Uvita, and I saw him last year, but I didn't see him this year because I wasn't there that long. Another friend of mine, Mark Ramsey's down in Uvita as well. So yeah, there's a lot of Canadians, a lot of investors, and then of course there's people traveling. My buddy Alfonso was running a mastermind while I was there as well. I didn't get a chance to go up and see him, but Costa Rica is a fantastic destination for all of these investors, and it's also probably one of the main reasons why I invested there is because people find it is very safe. It's relatively easy to get to from Toronto. It's got a great reputation. And so, and the weather is like super consistent. If you go there from November till April, it'll be 33 and sunny every single day. And so, that's why people love going there. And that's why it's a fantastic investment opportunities because of all those things.
Well, I love that you're focusing on your plans, you're consolidating your portfolio. You still had the 401 corridor there and a little bit off skirts there, Peterborough down to Kitchener. Are those properties that you're going to be holding on to, or are those something that you're looking at offloading as well? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think, most likely I'll offload them. The one just outside of Peterborough is a big project. It's 205 units. It's a subdivision essentially. And so we will probably look at getting it through some of the approval stages and then selling it maybe to a builder or selling it to somebody else who wants to take it through the construction process. The Kitchener one, I'll build it and then I'll stabilize it, basically get it fully rented up, leased up. and then decide either whether I want to sell it to another group of investors that I bring in or sell it to a third party. But I think we'll probably move that project to somebody else after it's complete. But yeah, we'll build it for sure. I'll keep all the Toronto stuff, you know, for sure. I think that's just that's kind of, and everything I own in Toronto is like literally within 20-minute drive of my house, and so I don't like to go very far.
20-minute drive in Toronto traffic? What?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Well, we saw the building in Hyde Park. It was fabulous what you guys had accomplished
Yeah.
there. Really loved
Yeah.
it. Attention to detail and a beautiful sized lot as well.
Yeah, we're adding a garden suite there in this spring. So we're adding a 9th unit onto that property.
Nice.
And the project just around the corner from that is our Glen Lake project. That's a 10 unit. We're breaking ground here in the next couple weeks. So lots of construction in that area. I'm doing a laneway suite across the street on one of my my old principal residence. And yeah, so we got lots of construction stuff. And then Dufferin is our other project. That's our 8 unit. We're just wrapping that up. So we'll be done there in the next 6 or 8 weeks and putting tenants in the building.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Certainly never a dull moment and always busy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing great. And thank you so much for taking the time and sharing with everybody. If anybody's watching, or I mean, people are watching.
If anyone wants to connect.
How do they connect with you, Darren? What's the best way?
You can check out my website, darrenvoros.com, or shoot me an email. info@darrenvoros.com is the best way to get a hold of me.
There you go. There you have it, everyone. So if you're interested in learning more about any of the upcoming projects that Darren has or the courses, masterminds, he's a man of many trades. So reach out to him there. Thank you so much, Darren. It was great seeing you and great having you on Rise and Shine again.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me, guys. Yeah, nice to see you.
Our pleasure.
Hang tight.